Hey, Baruch Levi B here from Biha Levi Coaching and Consulting, and I want to share with you today a topic about vulnerability. Just wrote this book called The Guy in the Glass, 6 Questions to See the Man You Were Meant to Be, and doing a lot of doing a lot of streaming around it. Wanted to get the content out there, but want to focus today on vulnerability because I see this as probably top 5 biggest issues when I'm counseling men. I counsel men for a living, coach men, guide them. I call mentoring. And one of the biggest challenges is for men to be vulnerable. I hear it over and over again with um, with particularly with the women in their lives who are looking for their men to be more vulnerable, and they're just not. And so men having a hard time being vulnerable, we have to do some work on vulnerability. So that's what this conversation is about, and that's what this book is about learning how to be vulnerable. It takes place at a bar, which sounds like one of the least vulnerable spots on earth. As a man, I can't think of a less vulnerable spot where you really put on the mask, you put on the persona, you put on the game face. You go into a bar back in the first half of life. You go in there to, well, let's just be honest, to pick up women, to make a connection, to score, to do whatever it takes. And you wear the mask in that bar, a superficial place by definition. And so it takes place in a bar because that's where a man, not just a bar, but out in the real world, needs to learn how to unmask. So this is a book about learning what it means to unmask as a man. Guy goes into the bar to um, figure himself out. It begins a 40-year-old man walking out of his home or his work or his life because he needs a break. He needs to really get back to himself, and he escapes to what he knows, back to a bar. So The Guy in the Glass takes place in a bar. Hey all, welcome for if you're just joining us. And it's a place where a man learns how to mask up, and it's a place where he needs to learn how to unmask. This is a real book for real men out in the real world, whether it's the bar, the boardroom, the bedroom. Let's learn how to take off our masks. Men, I hear it over and over from your wives, from your partners, from your mothers, from your daughters. You need vulnerability. So many men I know, most men I know, including me. This is not me like on the stage. I am a case study in masking up, in wearing a mask, in being invulnerable. I did it for so many years in my profession. When I was a rabbi, I was like paid to be invulnerable. I was paid to portray a certain set of values and strengths and image. We don't want vulnerability from our clergy. You think you do, you don't. Every time a clergy is vulnerable, they pay a price. When I was vulnerable in that role, I lost friends. I lost, it came back to bite me in the ass. And so we don't want it in our professionals and our lawyers and our doctors. And I'm not saying is right or wrong. All I'm saying is I was hiding in plain sight. I was, going through talking about being vulnerable without being vulnerable. And that's what men learn to do. There's 1,000 reasons why. We can have a conversation about our culture, society, religions. We can have a culture about our wiring, our DNA. I don't care. I'll have all those conversations. I want to hear about what you think in the comments below. But the bottom line is men mask up. We wear masks. So I wrote this book to show 6 fundamental masks men wear. I didn't want to get into the Enneagram in the book. It was just making it too complicated. And the first versions I did, if you know about the Enneagram, it's super complex. It can be simple, but it can be really deep. And I was confusing myself and the reader in the first few versions. So I got rid of the Enneagram and I left in there male archetypes or male masks that men tend to wear. So there's the nice boy, the good boy, the bad boy, the fun boy, the golden boy, and the fearful boy. And those are just ways to be invulnerable, to wear a mask, to present to the outside world. Persona. You ever thought about the word persona? I love this word. Persona comes from the Greek mask. It's a mask that we wear as human beings. I'm doing this for men because the women in my life have asked me to help their men unmask, to be softer, to get underneath. And that's really the point. And that's this conversation. This is a book, by the way, for men, but it's also a book for women to understand men. And it's a book for women to put in the hands of their men. That's the most important thing. I've counseled thousands of women who have said similar things. The man that I'm married to, the man that I'm raising, the man that I call father, the man that I call brother, the men in my life are they're hard. They're not vulnerable. They're not soft. I've heard this throughout my marriage. This is the number one critique. I guess you'd have to ask Ariel. I think it's the number one critique. It's the thing I've heard the most, which is we want a softer version of you. We want a kinder version of you. We want a more vulnerable version of you. It is so hard to be vulnerable. Thousand reasons why, not the least of which is you leave your house, you go out into the world, you gotta wear a mask. I am not Pollyanna. I am not saying bear all and share all and tell all. I am saying, men, go out into the world and hunt. Go out into the world and protect yourself. Go out into the world, right? You wear clothing. That's a mask. You can't just go be naked. Well, you can't do the same thing with your psyche and your personality. You got to wear masks. The question isn't whether you wear a mask, a persona. We all wear masks. The question is, do you believe it's who you are? Right? Do you believe that's who I am, or it's how I'm navigating the world and I can take it off? And can you take it off, men? Right? I wrote this book because we start going to the guy in the glass, the guy in the mirror, and we start believing that's who I am. You know how much I believed I was a rabbi? I am a rabbi. I am a therapist. I am a American. I am a Jew. I am a fill in the blank. These are just different masks, different aspects of our identity. Some of them we start believing it's who I am until it's stripped away from you, or you take it off, or the person with you says, I don't want to be married to this mask. I want to be married to the man underneath, or I want to be in a relationship to the man underneath. And it's hard. We've learned how to survive with these masks. We go wear them out in the world to protect ourselves and to bring home the bacon and to, lots of important contributions. But when you come home and you can't take the mask off anymore, who are you? Who was that masked man? Remember that Lone Ranger? Dating myself? Who was that masked man? Nobody knew him because he wasn't the Lone Ranger. Eventually he became the Lonely Ranger, right? And that's every man. Some masks are obvious, right? Some masks are not so obvious. Some masks we're rewarded to wear. So I go through chapters in this book, and it's based around a guy in a bar and some pickup lines. He's not actually being picked up, but these are old pickup lines from back in the day. He's being asked these questions, and he doesn't know how to answer them because they're not so simple. So that's one aspect of the book. 6 questions to see the man you're meant to be. But there's 6 fundamental archetypes or personality types or Enneagram types. There are actually 9, but I didn't want to write a 9-chapter book. It was just getting too unwieldy. So I boiled it down to 6, kind of merged a couple of them. And but you'll recognize them if you know the Enneagram, and you don't need to know the Enneagram because I never mentioned it in the book. And the first one is Enneagram 1 and Enneagram 9 and 2, the helper and the peacemaker. And that's the nice boy, right? This is a mask, and this is a hard one. I work with a lot of recovering nice boys or nice guys or nice men. This is probably one of the most difficult masks of all because you're rewarded for being nice. He's such a nice guy. Do you know how many women have left nice guys? A lot of women, because what they say is, I don't want nice. I want real. I want authentic. I want fill in the blank. But nice, right? We have overinflated this idea of nice. Nice guys don't tell you hard things. Nice guys don't say no when they need to say no. Nice guys, right? They don't tell you you have spinach in your teeth when you're out to lunch with them on one side, the trivial side. And they don't, pick up on the harder things to talk about with their spouses or with their children. They don't say the hard things. They don't take on the conflict. That's not nice, right? That's not compassionate. Maybe it's nice. It's not good for sure. And so we've overinflated this idea of nice. I work with so many nice guys whose wives have sent them to me because they're sick and tired of being with the nice guy. Their wife just left them, or that she's leaving them because he's so nice. Because she doesn't want nice. She wants, again, authentic, and she wants real, and she wants to know the shadows and the struggles and the darkness. By the way, the nice guys are the ones who are surfing porn, and the nice guys are the ones who are cheating, and the nice guys are, they bottle up the shadow, they bottle up the darkness, and it goes elsewhere. It goes underground. As I say in here, darkness denied is not darkness defied. It's darkness delayed, it's deferred. And when you defer darkness, men, it doesn't go away. It goes underground, and it starts to eat away at the fabric of your life. Nice guys, you need to stop being so effing nice. You need to be honest. You need to be true. And that's what this nice guy has to learn here, because truth isn't always nice. Truth is oftentimes very difficult, but that is ultimately nice, or I'd call it compassionate, to tell somebody the truth. Again, my trivial example is food in my teeth. And I get home and I'm like, why didn't nice guy tell me I had food in my teeth? Because he didn't want to hurt my feelings. Or the zipper, right, is down, right? And the nice guy won't tell you the zipper is down, but the true guy, right, he'll say, hey, you should know the fly is open. Like, oh, so embarrassing. Thank you for having the courage to tell me. Obviously, that's a trivial example, but nice guys move through the world, not saying hard things, doing hard things, being honest, being real. And so, this is about taking off your mask. And one of the masks men wear is the nice guy mask. That's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is the good boy. The good boy is also a very complicated mask for a man to wear. We have all of these as an aside, just like in the Enneagram, we have all of these, and wrote about 6 of them in here. But we have a go-to strategy, a go-to mask. And the good boy is also rewarded for he's such a good boy, right? How many little boys do we say that about? He's such a good boy. That is such a difficult thing to have placed upon you. I work with a lot of recovering good boys. You know who you are, who just want to make everybody happy. They want to be a pleaser, sort of like the nice boy. The nice boy is more afraid of conflict. The good boy, more of an Enneagram 2 and an Enneagram 1. For those of you who know the Enneagram, Enneagram 1's the reformer, the perfectionist. Enneagram 2's the helper. Originally I had the loving boy in here, but it kind of got conflated into those. And he's the one who puts everybody else's needs first, because that's what good boys do. Good boys always dot their I's and cross their T's. Good boys always eat their vegetables. Good boys always color inside the lines. And you get into that nice boy stuff too, of the shadow just goes underground. Again, talk to so many women who are just sick and tired of being with, he's so good, but he's not real. And frankly, she wants more than good, right? She also wants bad, or your partner or people around you. I want shadows. I want messy. I like messy people. I don't like neat and tidy. I'm certainly not. Probably could use a little more of that from my nice guy friends and my good boy friends. And so really this is about, that's a defense mechanism. All of these are defense mechanisms because we're scared. We're scared of being vulnerable, right? Nice guys and good boys, nice boys and good boys, doesn't mean they're vulnerable. They're covering up their vulnerability with that mask. And so part of our work is to learn how to take off the mask and be vulnerable. I'm a good boy and I'm not always so good. I do some dark things. I have some dark thoughts. I struggle with dark issues, messy issues. It's part of the deal. Ain't none of us this perfect, polished little version, this Facebook version of ourselves. As an aside, I put this book out relatively recently, a week or two ago, and I just was reminded of like the vulnerability of dropping the mask and telling who we are. And it's like, oh my God, it's like I have this vulnerability hangover for the past couple of weeks. It was just a good reminder of why people in general, men in particular, wear masks to cover up our vulnerabilities, because it's scary. It's overwhelming to be vulnerable, to put yourself out into the world and be seen. Man, not an easy thing to do. And so, just a reminder of why we wear these masks. We wear them because life can be a scary thing, and to drop your armor and to say, this is who I am, is putting yourself into potentially harm's way. And so, again, totally understandable why we mask up with the nice boy or the good boy, or chapter 3, the bad boy. We'll get there. But you get to a point where you start believing it's who I am, and you start becoming incapable of reaching underneath the mask to the true man, to the authentic version of ourselves. And then you can't share it anymore. You know how many nice boys and good boys grow up to be nice men and good men whose spouses know nothing about them, who can't get to the truth because he can't get there anymore? Because when he goes to the guy in the glass, he just sees the facade, he sees the persona, he believes it's who I am. Men, it's not who you are. It's what you do, it's how you survive, but you don't have to survive. The whole point of this, the whole point of any of this, is to stop surviving and to learn to live. But to learn to live means you're going to get uncomfortable. You're going to get messy. You're going to have to go underneath the mask. And that's what this is about. Chapter 1, the nice boy mask, to cover our vulnerability. Chapter 2, the good boy mask, to cover our vulnerability. Chapter 3, the bad boy or the tough boy, depends on the day. This was my go-to strategy. This is my, hey, I'm tough, I'm bad, I'm an 8, I'll challenge you, I'll be loud, I'll be provocative, I'll say such shocking things. By the way, I do that in here. I start the entire thing by talking about my father's suicide, and it's come, there are times when I use that to be invulnerable. People say it must be so hard to talk about your father's suicide, or I wrote about it in a graphic way in here. It's not. This is the bad boy, the tough boy, hiding vulnerability. I can talk about how he hung himself. I can talk about the details of it and not feel anything because I've been using it to hide. Now I've done a lot of work and I've gotten underneath it and I've shed a lot of tears. So now when I'm sharing the story, it really isn't, I think, it's not hiding behind it. But in the past it was, in the past it is. I'll be provocative. I'll be shocking so that I don't have to be vulnerable. And that's a very problematic place to be. People think I'm being vulnerable because I'm sharing so much and it's so intense. But that's just another way of hiding. That's just a mask that some of us wear. Some of us do it through niceness. Some of us do it through being good or sweet. Some of us do it through being tough or bad. But oftentimes they're the most vulnerable of all. I'm American and Israelis are really known for the tough guy routine, even the women, the machismo, the bravado. That just watch like Fauda. If you haven't seen Fauda, it's a great TV show. A really best, especially Lior. I forgot his name. I think that is his name. Lior, the protagonist in there, the main guy. He's just this tough guy, but underneath, they call Israelis sabras. Sabra means cactus fruit, and so it's prickly on the outside, but it's soft and sweet on the inside. Well, that's the tough guy or the tough gal. Oftentimes, always, there's a soft, gentle version underneath that at a young age they believed they couldn't share or that they're not safe to share. And so we put on the mask. The nice boy puts on the mask as if he's seen as not nice. Will he be liked? Right? Will he be wanted? The good boy puts on the mask of being good, the goody two shoes, because if he's seen as bad, he'll never be accepted. The tough guy, the bad boy, these are just different ways to cover our vulnerability. And it sounds so simple, but man, you start believing it's not what I do, it's who I am. And you stop looking for him, the guy in the glass, the true him, the true you, underneath all the bravado, underneath the persona, underneath the personality. There he is. And he's always there, calling out to us to return. And so that's why I wrote this book, to put him at the mirror, in the mirror, because that's a place that I found my way back. I found it there, literally in the mirror. After, shared this before, but after Shabbat services, the Sabbath, when I would do my thing as a rabbi and I would come back to the rabbi's study, I'd give these big sermons and I'd practice them and I'd pretend like I didn't practice them because I wanted to make it sound so easy, but I just sweat. That's me covering my vulnerability. I wanted it to look like it was so easy, and I was damn good at it. I wasn't great at a lot of things at the job, but I was very good at giving sermons. but I wanted it to look like it was a natural gift. I would practice and practice and practice and practice. And that's me covering up my insecurity, right? That I'm terrified of public speaking. I still don't like public speaking. Me being vulnerable, not easy. And so I just come across as I got this. He's got this. His mastery. Every time I would be nervous about public speaking. I'm an introvert by design, by disposition. And so, but I would go back to the mirror in my rabbi's study, and I would literally talk to myself. I would I would question myself. I would challenge myself, and it wasn't just about the public speaking. It was about the persona. It was about the mask. It was about presenting myself as a certain way, a man of God, a man of faith. I didn't have faith. I didn't pray. I couldn't connect. I didn't believe in what I was teaching, and I did it one point, but I stopped it. I stopped feeling it. And I would go and check in with the guy in the glass, but I couldn't be vulnerable. I tried, by the way. I tried a few times to be vulnerable about my doubts and about my insecurities around my profession. And it was shut down, or I allowed it to be shut down. Not blaming. I'm just describing why we wear masks, because it was scary to share my fundamental doubts about I was a rabbi. This is my religion. And so I would go to the guy in the glass and I would see what he had to say, and I would talk to him. And eventually he talked back and he told me, leave, save yourself, save your family, go out into the world and be in a place, be in a community, be in a profession where you can remove this particular mask. And so I did. I went out into the world and I took off my mask. And now, it's not good or bad. I'm just kind of describing to you what this book is all about. And as men, how do we become vulnerable? We have to check in with ourselves. We have to continuously be honest about who's the guy staring back. He's succeeding, but at what cost? At what price? Right? What's it worth? And I was losing myself in the process. So I went out into the world, and it's been a process over the past 10 years, excuse me, to find my way back to me, the true me, the guy in the glass. And so chapters 1 through 6 are all about 6 different masks that we wear as men. And we all have one that we go to, but they're all within us. And so you'll hear bits and pieces of you or the man that you're with, the man that you love. I wrote this for women too, to understand men, to put into your man's hands. And 80% of it is relevant to just people in general. But I do get pushback sometimes. Why are you focused on men? Why didn't you write this for women? Why do you only coach men? Why do you have a podcast about men? Because women need their men to be authentic, to be vulnerable. I've heard this 1,000 times. I want him to be real. I want to know the true him. I want him to feel his feelings. I want to know he doesn't know what he's feeling. And I want to be with somebody who's vulnerable and able to access that. And so this is a courtesy to women everywhere to help him become more authentic and vulnerable and real. The nice guy, or the nice boy, the good boy, the bad boy, the successful boy, or I call him, I think, the fun boy. He's the good time boy. He's the Peter Pan, right? Peter Pan is the fun boy in here. Peter Pan is the one who wants to fly around, never touch down, wants to run with the Lost Boys, live in Neverland. He's Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He's what's his name? Jim Carrey. And basically every character he plays in the first half of Jim Carrey's life, he's no longer that guy. But it's just this shallow sort of go wide, not deep. And that's another mask, right? Because we're covering over the vulnerabilities. And he's afraid. He's afraid that he's not serious, not smart, not deep, not real. And so he just keeps moving. Right? He's like Finding Nemo, just keep swimming. And so that's a mask. So many guys in this day and age are wearing the fun guy, the good time guy. I just got back from Vegas. Oh my God, that is like the fun mask, right? I mean, it's. I go there for the kids mostly because they wanted to see some shows, or Ariella. Well, I'll go there, but it's really like triggering for me because I just have a hard time with this mask and that way of being in the world. Did you know how many women who talk to me about their husband knows more about the NCAA tournament than he does about her? or his kids, or he's spending more time, invested into fantasy football, or hanging out with his buddies, or going on golfing outings, junkets, whatever. And it's like, guys, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's a mask. It's a way of being in the world, but take it off, get underneath it, right? Who's the true you, the guy in the glass staring back? We got to find him. Got to stop running with the Lost Boys. Got to stop living in Neverland. And so, how do you learn to get vulnerable, as the Peter Pan version? To be real, to go deeper, to get into suffering, to be able to hold suffering. Um, so that's the what does that call that? The fun boy. Then we go into the golden boy, the successful boy. This is the winner. This is Wall Street. This is corporate America. This is the quarterback. This is the persona that so many guys want to portray. This is the manosphere, by the way. So the manosphere is the tough guy, and the golden boy, or the successful guy. Supposedly there's a great documentary on it. Have you guys seen it? I haven't seen it yet. I know I need to. And this guy is the one who's presenting success. He's the one who tells you how much he's worth, or what he does for a living. Or, I just met a guy who introduced himself as doctor to me, and it was a casual context. I'm like, really? Like, you're introducing yourself in a casual? It was like a bar environment as Doctor. I'm Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know what his name was. I'm like, dude, I have titles too, but it reflects my academics, and this isn't that place for it. And so, like, can we drop the persona, the mask of success? This is a big one. I run men's peer groups. If you guys are interested, menspeergroups.com. We're taking them online, so you can, even if you're not in Denver, you can get into one here very soon. But you're not allowed to bring your Superman cape to. Love it. Thank you. I love the feedback. I don't know who that is. Oh, is that my sister? RR must be. When you come to men's peer groups, you are not allowed to wear a Superman costume and tell everybody, hey, we have like 4 buckets. We have how you doing personally, professionally, family, and community. And there's this kind of saying, 1 out of 10. Oh, I'm 10s across the board. I'm 10s. I'm 10s. I'm 10s. Bullshit. Like, nobody's 10s across the board, and this isn't the place for that. Who are you when you take off the Superman outfit, when you take off the mask? Who's the authentic person underneath there? And that's what we're talking about, is dropping the mask, taking off the persona, which literally means mask, the personality, which literally means mask. Don't bring your bullshit here. Nobody cares how much money you made or how successful you were. We want to hear about, call them my banged up, broken, battered brothers. Like, I want to hear about that. That's what I care about. And you get to the second half of life, and it's like, that's all that I want, is just to be around people who are authentic and real and can be vulnerable and share. And if you keep wearing the persona, especially the golden boys, especially the fun boys, and you keep going out into the world and you start believing your own bullshit, I don't know if there's a hell. My sister can tell you if there is. She's a psychic medium. But I can tell you there's one on earth. I can tell you there's one here. And that is when a guy goes to the glass and he says, remember Stuart Smalley, doggone it, right? You're the best. I like myself. You're perfect. You're not perfect. You're flawed. And that's okay. That's, you're perfectly imperfect. And if we can't check in with ourselves in the glass, in the mirror, we start to lose ourselves. And that's the point, is if there is a hell on earth, it is believing your own bullshit. It is going to the mirror and not seeing your shortcomings, your faults, or your failings, your flaws. And there's nothing wrong. It doesn't mean you say hey, it's who I am. You say, hey, it's part of what I've done. I'm perfectly imperfect, and I'm doing the work. I'm taking responsibility. And that's what this is all about. Taking responsibility, taking off the mask, being vulnerable, being authentic, taking responsibility, and then going out and putting a mask back on. I am not naive. You've got to, if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you're a professional, right? You got to wear a mask. I don't want to hear my doctor, my surgeon's insecurities about his marriage. I want him to put on the professional mask. I want him to put on the successful mask, right? But I want him also to go home at night and take it off and not be the doctor, not be the surgeon, not be the perfect whatever. So there's a time and a place for your mask. This is about learning when to mask up, when to, have the persona, and when to take it off, when to be vulnerable. And if you can't do it with the guy in the glass, if you can't do it with the guy in the mirror, then you are on the road to hell. You are on the descent. And there's nothing worse in this lifetime, men, than to go to the guy in the glass and no longer see the true you, to lose total access to him. But here's the good news. He's always there. I call it she, your soul. She's always there. She's calling out to you, calling you back to the guy in the glass. So go to work and go to your sports games and do all that stuff and put on the mask. No problem, fine. But make sure you have times where you can return to the true you, to your essence, to your soul, to the guy in the glass. And so we're talking today about the personas, the masks that men wear. And in the book, chapters 1 through 6, even though there's stuff before and after, are the 6 fundamental masks a man wears: the good boy, the nice boy, the bad boy, the fun boy, the successful boy, and called the fearful boy, right? This one is a little more obvious of a mask, but it's a mask nonetheless. It's hiding behind our anxieties, hiding behind our fears, right? Wearing them almost as a badge of honor, using those things as excuses. So many men use their fears as excuses. I just counseled a guy who said he's not going to marry again. Why? Because he's afraid, because he's been through a divorce and it was ugly. And he just, is using that as an excuse not to live. Or I've counseled thousands of people through grief. People use death all the time as a reason not to love again, not to live again. The fear, the heartache, the heartbreak, it's too much bullshit, right? That's exactly why we have to double down. We have to, as I say, love more fully and live more fiercely on the other side of a divorce, on the other side of a death, and not using that mask as a way to hide from the world. And so really that's what we're grappling with here is the 6 different masks that men wear throughout their life. Women, this is a book for you to help your men unmask, at least with you or with their family or with their inner circle or in their men's peer groups, right? Men, we got to find places and spaces and people where we can, excuse me, take off the mask, unmask. And that's crucial if you want to find your way back to the guy in the glass. And it starts with him. Even if you don't have a partner to do that with, even if you don't have a men's group, a community, whatever, you always have him. You always have the guy in the glass. You always have yourself. You have your soul. You have God, right? I found my way back to God, to source, to one, through the guy in the glass, through doing this work and returning to my essence, my soul, learning how to unmask, learning that I'm not the Enneagram type. It's just simply how I've learned to survive. You are not your personality. You are not your persona. You are not your accomplishments. You are not your achievements. You are not your doings. Those are just simply ways that you show up. Those are ways you move through the world. At the end of the day, my teacher, Viktor Frankl, whose book, Man's Search for Meaning, is a must read. If you have to choose, go with Man's Search for Meaning first and foremost. This is my Bible right here. He wrote 39 books, by the way, but that's the most popular one. I've read all of them that are in English anyways. And Viktor Frankl demonstrated this in the Holocaust of all places, right? He was stripped of everything. They murdered his wife and his child and his parents and his brother and his family and his friends. They took away his profession and his possessions. They took away everything. But he said, but they couldn't take away the defiant power of my spirit, my essence, my soul. That is yours and yours alone. That is all you have. At the end of the day, the rest of it are just masks. They're personas. They're important. I don't begrudge them. I don't belittle them. We need them. However, this is a book about finding your way back to what's true. And if it's true, then it always was, it always is, and it always will be true. And at the end of the day, I believe that's the work that we're here to do, men and women. That's the work that you should expect your father, your son, your brother, your husbands to do. It is time to get underneath the mask. It is time to feel our feelings. It is time to be vulnerable, not talking about mush, I'm not talking about nice guy vulnerability or good boy vulnerability. Those are also masks. I'm talking about authenticity, what is true, learning how to share it at the right time in the right context for the right reasons, but learning how to share it, learning how to get access to it, to drop the cape, to take off the mask, to stop the bullshit. And again, my book opens with my father killing himself because he couldn't accept that the man in the mirror was vulnerable. He didn't know what to do with his vulnerability. He couldn't share it, obviously, with the people around him. Certainly didn't share it with me. And if he did, I would have held him and I would have loved him even more, not in spite of it, because of it. Men, that is the pathway back, to learn how to be vulnerable, particularly with the people you love, the people who love you most. So that's it. The Guy in the Glass, 6 questions to see the man you were meant to be. And today we have been talking about 6 different personas, 6 different masks, learning how to unmask, learning how to be vulnerable to get back to the true you, to get back to the Guy in the Glass. Jump over to guyintheglass.com where you can get the book. You can get so much more. Love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video.